of Canaan. So Ham laid with his mother had Canaan, so he got cursed to be the servant of servants to his brothers. His brothers being Shem and Japheth. So Joshua, Israel, comes from Shem. We broke covenant, and now we're also servants to Japheth for 400 years. That is the British monarch. We were strangers in a strange land, Egypt. This is a true map of the world. So before the flood, everything was united. So parts of America was actually parts of Africa. So this territory was given to Canaan. This territory was given to Shem. It extends from Canada all the way to North America and South America. So we took possession of the land of Canaan. Joshua and the tribes fought the Canaanites and were given possession of Canaan. The lands of Canaan is an everlasting possession. It comes back to us after 400 years of exile. It's throughout the scriptures. So you see, Ham was given Africa. This is all connected. Now we have this territory that Shem took possession of. This is a territory of Japheth, Eurasia. So before we were taking this territory, that section belonged to Canaan. The east coast belonged to Canaan, but Shem took over. And that extended to Brazil. You see, the map of Brazil, original Africa, located in Brazil. That's why Brazil is mentioned in the BRICS nation, which is a new system, money system that's coming over to the world, the Great Reset. BRICS Alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. America is not mentioned. They say civilization started in Africa. That is true because Noah's Ark was built from gopher wood that only grows in Florida and Georgia. And that territory where that's sown was actually parts of Africa. So the world started melanated, and that includes Europe and Asia. So the FBI files mentions the United States as the biblical land of Joshua. Those are British Israelism, because so are the British. They are the tribe of Dan that broke off the tree of life. Let me explain. So Dan, as in London, Denmark, they are the judge. So Daddy used them to punish us for breaking covenant, to enslave us. That's what they did. That's what they mentioned early in the scriptures, but they're not included in the 144,000 because they broke off the tree of life. And Joseph and Ephraim are one and the same. The tribe of Dan is one of the 10 lost tribes of Jashurel. British Isles is connected to them, right? United Kingdom. The Brits. Tribe of Dan, the pagan tribe of the Antichrist. Esau, Edom, and Rome. For Esau is the end of this world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. King James Bible, I will be coming back to King James. Do you rejoice, O people Edom, in the land of Oz? But you too will feel the awful anger. Adonai, Joshua's exile, for her sins will end at last, but Edom's never. So you see, our punishment is ended, but they are forever cursed. They are forever cursed. In the Bible, Esau's sons and grandsons are referred to as dukes. Prince Harry, Duke, and you see how he's redheaded? First to come out was red. His whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. Harry, King Harry, or Duke Harry. This is your so-called King James portrait, right? The King of Scotland, United Kingdom, and his wife was from Denmark. Denmark. The black nobility. You see, black nobility. They started off black. So the Scottish and Irish people are known for their red hair. Esau and Jacob are indeed two separate nations, the Edomites and the Israelites. Two different nations in one wound. One was red and hairy, right? So, you see, the early men started melanated. So there's no way that Esau was white with red hair. So one of them was indigenous with black hair, black eyes. So the indigenous of the Americas are not known to have natural red hair. That was something that came later on when they started to mix with us, when the Europeans started mixing with us during colonization. This is not natural to our people. So that came from Europe and Africa. You see? They are known to have red hair. They didn't pick it up from white people. The white people got it from them. They have the red hair. You see? Red hair. And blue eyes too. There's a region in Africa that they have blue eyes, natural blue eyes.
Up until the 1940s, Irish people were considered black because even if you had one drop of Negro blood, you were considered black. And they even had a term for it, smoked Irish. Even during segregation, they were never considered to be white. So the movie Braveheart depicts a white man going up against the English army to stop the invasion. But what's wrong about this is that's supposed to be a black man. They told you that the Scottish and the Irish were fighting against the English and that their populations were wiped out by the potato famine or something. But no, actually, they were just deported.
I was looking through footage of my grandfather, who is my mother's dad, and he would use a bit of more of an old school Cork, right? You'd hear this in a lot older generations, especially in the inner city of Cork, right? And I was thinking to myself, by Christ, Granda George sounds like he's from the middle of Barbados. So
look at all these Jamaican and Caribbean last names. They all sound like Irish and Scottish last names. Now, as to how Ireland and Scotland became white, it only takes 3 generations of race mixing to turn them completely white. White people with melanin they start to have ginger hair and freckles, because that's like the genes fighting to be either become white or black.
Red hair came from Africa, not Ireland, not Scotland, Africa. And they really don't want you to know that. Everyone thinks red hair is European, Celtic, Nordic, pale skin and freckles. Wrong. The MC1R gene, the gene responsible for red hair, has been traced back to African populations. It didn't start in a cold climate. It started on the continent they said had nothing to do with it. Ancient North Africans carried the gene thousands of years before it ever appeared in Europe. The Berbers of Morocco and Algeria, some of the oldest populations in Africa, have had red hair for millennia. Ramesses II, one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs, had red hair. They found it still on his mummy, an African king, with red hair. But when you Google red hair, you get Ireland, Scotland, Vikings, never Africa. Because if red hair started in Africa, then the most European physical trait on Earth isn't European at all. They claimed it, put it on postcards and beer commercials, built an entire cultural identity around it, and the whole time it was African. The gene didn't travel from Europe to Africa. It traveled from Africa to everywhere else, just like everything. Red hair came from Africa.
This tribe is special as people have blue eyes. Deep in Ethiopia, the Ari tribe lives with unique features that have shocked the world. Some members are born with stunning blue eyes, a rare trait in Africa. Scientists believe it's due to a rare genetic mutation or ancient ancestry. But for the Ari, it's more than beauty, it's identity. No contact lenses or no tricks, just pure genetic wonder. Their eyes shine bright against their dark skin, making them one of the most visually striking tribes on Earth.
This is Prince Harry, and this is his wife, who's also mixed, right, black and white, and their child. And you see how their children look white. That's her mother, that's her dad. These nations always work together. And as you see, so this generation of their kids, you would not know that they have black in them, right? That's what's happening, because the ruling classes, the Rothschilds, go all the way to Nimrod, and Nimrod was black, a giant. And you see how her kids, they look white. This is what they've been doing. So why do the Jewish plan to eliminate the white races from Europe? Why? When they look white themselves. Because they did not start white. The original Jews were black and swarthy. Jews. And like I said, they go back all the way to Nimrod, and he was a Hamite giant. Oh, encyclopedia, excuse me. This is an American. That's a Caucasian. These came later. These are Neanderthals, and these are also incubator babies. You see, the Mongols were black, the Africans, and these are the Australians, all melanated. You see, from the Caucasus Mountains, black Caucasians, they started black. Mongolians, Mongols. So what happened is that they started to mix with the Neanderthal races. And they just got lighter and lighter. You see, the Neanderthals come from where? Europe and Central Asia. And where does the red hair come from? Europe. And then there's also your incubator babies, right? They were white, and they filled all the Americas with these incubator babies. And the first slaves in America were actually white slaves.
Very clear that the Jews want to exterminate the European race. Richard Coudenhove Kalergi, who is the father of the European Union and who was funded by the Jewish bankers Rothschild and Warburg. Now, this man wrote a book called Praktischer Idealismus in 1925, in which he stated that the Jews are a master race and that the Jews can only assume the throne of rule over the world by weakening the European race, and that the means to weakening the European race would be to dissolve all the European nations, destroy all their cultural heritage and their national traditions, and replace that with the European Union, and then to invite in Africans, Middle Easterners, and Asians to dilute the blood of Europeans through miscegenation to the point where they became a degenerate mixed race. And then at that point, these people would no longer have any sense of nationhood, and the ancient Jewish messianic prophecies of world rule out of Jerusalem, with Jews maintaining their nationhood and their national status, it would fulfill the Jewish messianic prophecies that the Jews could then rule the world. And this was completely in line with what Nikolai had written in 1917 and has manifested itself recently with the invasion of immigrants from Africa, from the Middle East, and from Asia into Europe, America, and Australia. And they are deliberately setting about to genocide the white race and destroy all sense of nationhood and of national heritage and national culture. Very clear.
There's so many clones coming into Europe, right? That would mean there's even potentially clones in this room right now. There must be so many.
80% of the Caucasian population.
80% of the Caucasian population are clones. So, it's not about racism.
No, it's nothing to do with race.
Is there any signs? Is there any signs that you could have a clone in your life, that you're in love with a clone? Like, I know a lot of people say that they don't think, they don't have internal dialogue. Is there anything you've come across?
That's exactly what I was about to say. So Dolores Cannon did the work on this. So Benjamin Franklin also wrote about this, saying that there was a dire need to fill America with Caucasian people. So for whatever reason, they decided to do that. They say that there is no inner dialogue, and they called it whitewashing. But Dolores Cannon believed that 80% of the population that look like me can't trace their family tree back past really the 1800s with any accuracy, and we refer to them today as NPCs.
Wow.
She said they were soulless. I don't think anything living is soulless. I think we all have a connection. But it was called whitewashing, for want of a better expression. And it was to make out, and they did this at the World's Fairs and Expositions, they would have on display people from indigenous...
So from the theory of there's so many clones coming into Europe, right? That would mean there's even potentially clones in this room right now. There must be so many.
80% of the Caucasian population.
80% of the Caucasian population are clones. So, it's not about racism.
No, it's nothing to do with race.
Is there any signs? Is there any signs that you could have a clone in your life, that you're in love with a clone? Like, I know a lot of people say that they don't think, they don't have internal dialogue. Is there anything you've come across?
That's exactly what I was about to say. So Dolores Cannon did the work on this. So Benjamin Franklin also wrote about this, saying that there was a dire need to fill America with Caucasian people. So for whatever reason, they decided to do that. They say that there is no inner...
In the 1850s, just after the last reset, there began a massive push to reintroduce technology, culture, and even people to the world. World's Fairs had these massive exhibits called live infant incubators. These exhibits were insanely popular, drawing millions of visitors. They even had nurses in uniforms acting like caretakers. The babies weren't premature. They were being artificially gestated. This wasn't just a medical breakthrough. This was unfathomably advanced technology. Artificial wombs, mass baby production. Sounds a whole lot like a new world being repopulated after something big went down.
Tell me this is a dream. Tell me we're dreaming. Tell me this isn't real life.
Well, the world is one step closer to creating designer babies with a world-first experiment altering the genes of embryos.
You heard that right. Keep watching.
Researchers say it is now possible to produce a child from genetically altered embryo.
GMO babies. But our world is literally trying to play God and create GMO babies, genetically modified baby. Imagine how the creator of the universe feels when he sees us, puny humans, trying to create life. You know what's crazy? You know how I know it's coming from Satan? What did Satan do in the Garden of Eden again? He tried to tempt Eve by telling her she could be her own God. And then now they're trying to tempt the world into creating their own children and being their own God. Nice try, Satan. You're a desperate loser. Tell me this.
360 years, we go through a reset. And it's symbolized by the total eclipse of the sun. The last one would have been around 1660, which is why everything is like founded after that date, when they found all these Tartaria buildings. The Tartarians were the builders, the giants. They had free electromagnetic healing energy when they were cathedrals. And then they were all wiped out by the mud flood, because it goes flood, fire, flood, fire. And then they created the pod people. This is where all the incubator babies came from, and then the orphanages were sprouting up. These were the white pod people. White fake people incubated in orphanages, then grew to adults, and they could reproduce about 10 times before they're sterile. These are people that follow all the rules no matter what. They can't think outside the box. Usually plain clothes. They do what they're told. They work, eat, sleep, church, reproduce. They're the archons. TV is their narrator. It's where they get their signal, and they follow the narrative. And if you ask them, like, think outside the box or go against anything that's outside of their program, you're met with anger. And this is the herd mentality. They're all about the herd mentality, to where when you're intermingled with them and you're surrounded by them, you start to think you're the crazy one because you're not following the herd mentality. And that's why it was set up that way. These are privately operated drones. This is where we get the term private citizens. They're the worker bees. Privates in the army are the low-ranking ones. And we've turned them into non-productive private citizens because their 10-time reproductive cycle is ending. So these people age faster, they look older than they are, and they just do what the TV tells them. Eat, buy, get shot, wear your mask. TV is their god. And they're used to influence the real humans who came over probably after, if you're creative, your family members probably came here after 1660. I know both sides of my family came here in like 1890. But they look old. When the rapture comes, it's just that their signal is turned off because they've turned into these non-productive, sterile, private citizens.
So the Egyptians, the pharaohs, were Hamites, and the Hamites were black, dark. And you see the hair on this mummy? It's red. This looks like a wig to me. They're known to have wigs also. This is another mummy with red hair. Just like the Nephilims, who are known to have red hair, and the giants. Okay, so Queen Elizabeth's grandmother was black. Or great-great-grandmother, was black. I told you they started off black. They just got lighter. Beyonce is related to Queen Elizabeth. That's why they call her Queen Bee, because she's also Esau. This is who she is. She's part of the black nobility. That's why there's a people here in America, the black races, they make it to like politics, government, entertainment. They make a lot of money, and then there's prisons filled up with other black people because you're not the same bloodline. So you see, this is Queen Elizabeth, Queen Charlotte, her great-great-grandmother. This is your black nobility. So Rothschild means basically red child. That's what it is. You see? So these are Like I said, they got lighter and lighter as the generations went by. This is who he is. And you ever notice how many Jewish and black people, famous celebrities, they're together? And you notice how they're always focusing on either the Holocaust or slavery movies, but they never touch on the genocide of the Native Americans in the Americas, how they killed 90% of the Native Americans here, but they always focus on these two groups because they work together. So this is the brooch that Queen Elizabeth was wearing one time, and she received criticism for. And that's her angel stepping on top of a red nation. I will share that with you in a minute. I know it's going quickly. So Esau married a Canaanite woman. So the Canaanite were the bloodline of the serpent. And Esau also married a daughter from Ishmael, who they became the Arab nations. That's why they all work together. They're Iranians. They work with the Vatican. They all work together. So no, Esau may be white today, but he did not start right. And you will see that these two groups always work together. They run everything.
We are royalty.
Washington was actually a black man. And these are other black presidents. So history has been lying, it's been whitewashed. And also Hitler was also black. And Hitler is the grandfather of Obama, and Obama will be back. And it's also Albert Hitler himself was dark skinned with black eyes. And guess what? Albert Rothschild Hitler. All the same people. And I explained before that Trump is just making the way for Obama to come back. He is the man of sin. Trump and Obama. Esau, Edom. And you see how Obama himself is mixed, right? So Latinos are the ones that are being rounded up today by ICE. 9 out of 10, right? So where do you get the word Latino from? Latino comes from the word Latin. That comes from Italy and Rome. And it tells you in the book of Joel 3 that the Greeks and Romans were the ones that sold us. That's why we get the name Latinos, and that's why they're gathering the Latin community right now. And the Holy Roman Empire started off black. That's your bullets, your Greek coins. You find Greek coins with the faces of black people in them. And since 2020, we have received over 3 million acres of water and lands back. And that's the real reason they're gathering our people, because they're supposed to be giving us our lands and waters back. And you see how these data centers require millions of gallons of water. So they want the lands for these data centers. This is what we're known in the scriptures as Jacob's trouble. That's what's happening to our people right now, because they want the lands and waters. And that's why they're detaining them. They're not detaining or getting rid of anybody else, no other nation but our people, because these lands belong to us and they're coming back to us. And they want the lands and the waters so they can keep on putting these data centers.
Another episode of Deja Vu. No way, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. George Washington was black? What? His Imperial Highness George Washington Francis of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Oh, where my Haitians at in Connecticut? Let's go. Oh, and he's the cousin of the emperor? What emperor are they talking about in this picture? Is this real right now? No way. I know you guys gonna tell a bunch of stuff over here, but I'm just flabbergasted.
put them into enslavement to this very day. And so the Boule Secret Society actually goes back nearly 5,000 years during Greek antiquity, even going up to the time of Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. So the term Boule is a Greek Hellenistic term, meaning they are the advisors to the king. They protect the crab barrel system. They're not the masters of the crab barrel, but they are the boules, the foremans of the crab barrel. So the term boule simply means they are the guardians, the gatekeepers of the Greek parliament. Again, this is going back nearly 5,000 years. And so the Greek Hellenistic society and later the Roman Empire had chosen unique men and women out of a nation that we call Africa today. And a lot of people don't know this, but as a quick side note, the term Africa is not the name of the original continent. It is not. The name of the original continent, the mother continent, is called Alkebulan, right? Capital Alkebulun, Alkebulan. It means, it's a Coptic word meaning the Garden of Eden. So Alkebulan was changed by a 5-star Roman general by the name of Leo Scipio Africanus, who during the Second Punic War in 202 BC defeated Hannibal in Carthage, which is present-day Libya and Tanzania, and changed the name of the continent from Alkebulan, which is actually a Coptic term meaning the Garden of Eden, to Africanus, which is Africa today. Put them into
Millionaire Kevin O'Leary wants to build the world's largest data center on indigenous land without their consent. The project is proposed to go through Treaty 8 territory around Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. Chief Sheldon Sunshine of Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation didn't even know the project's details until it was publicly announced. The project is called Wonder Valley, and it's estimated to cost over $70 billion and be the largest AI data center in the world, with over 58 buildings. And who lives near these data centers? Indigenous people. So how do these tech billionaires and millionaires get away with this? Because the Canadian government makes it super easy for them, because they only have the duty to consult, which means they don't actually have to achieve consent with Indigenous people. They just have to go through the consultation methods where appropriate. Canada tells the world it believes in reconciliation and Indigenous rights, but that's all out the door when there's billions of dollars on the table. This AI colonization is just the next chapter in the same old story.
Natives, we're not immigrants, we're the first Americans here, we were the first peoples here. And it's just crazy that our people are getting picked up, and thrown in a car and brought out to some federal holding place. That's sad, It shouldn't be happening to us in our own country. This is our land. My cousin talked about putting her tribal ID on a lanyard, and she was joking, and I was like, no, that's a good idea. So when they pull me over, I'll just, show it to this. I ain't talking to no ICE agent. I shouldn't have to.
On January 28th, the Bois Forte Reservation tribal ID staff came down and issued 85 IDs in one day, which is very different. Usually we'll do maybe 3 or 4 in a month.
And, I'm light-skinned, but there's a lot of other folks that are a lot darker skinned, and they've been stopped and actually detained because they didn't have papers on them. As an American citizen, as a First Nations or indigenous people to the United States. It's like, how dare you? You know, and then you take us and put us in a concentration camp over in Fort Snelling. You know, it's like, it's a slap in the face.
It's very frustrating. It's something that you never thought that you would have to do. So it's something that's not new to us, but new for now. Again, it's renewed, and it's very frustrating. We shouldn't have to live like this. In fact, no one should have to live like this.
I haven't been following what's been unfolding in Wild West Alberta. Well, last week, Alberta's treaty chiefs said they're prepared to shut down industry and take to the highways to stop the separation referendum. And Premier Danielle Smith's response, well, she invoked a law that carries up to 6 months in jail and $25,000 a day in fines, the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act, and pointed it directly at anyone who gets in the way. We're talking about arresting chiefs for standing on their own treaty land. And the chiefs, they know it. They're ready for it. They're prepared to be arrested. Skoden. Now here's what people forget about why Alberta cannot simply separate and ride off into the sunset with its oil money. Every single inch of Alberta sits on treaty territory. Treaty 6, 7, and 8. Those treaties predate the province of Alberta by up to 29 years. Alberta was created inside treaty territory, not the other way around. The oil, the pipelines, the highways, all of it sits on land that was never fully surrendered. Those treaties guaranteed First Nations the right to hunt, fish, trap, and move freely across their traditional lands. An independent Alberta would cut an international border straight through Treaty 8 territory alone, which spans parts of Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, and the Northwest Territories. You can't do that. You can't slice through a nation-to-nation agreement with the Crown like it doesn't exist. And 2 courts have already said exactly that. 2 judges ruled this referendum violates treaty rights. Smith called those rulings anti-democratic and put the question on the October ballot anyway. So if she's defying a court decision, why is she picking and choosing when to enforce the law? By planning to enact the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act? The chiefs took the fight all the way to Buckingham Palace. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak sat down with King Charles himself just last week because these treaties were made with the Crown, not the province, not a separatist petition group, with the Crown. And she told the separatists flat out, you're free to leave, but you won't be taking any land with you. And Ottawa, silent, completely silent. I spoke with Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation Chief Sheldon Sunshine, whose nation is leading the legal fight. And I asked him straight up, are you ready for what's coming? He didn't flinch. The full story is up at Indigenous Insider right now. Link in bio. Go read it. Hi.
In 1980, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the government had illegally seized the Black Hills from the Lakota Sioux. They said the land was sacred. The United States said, here's a check. In 1868, the United States government signed the Fort Laramie Treaty, promising the Lakota Sioux that the Black Hills, Pahasapa, were theirs forever. The treaty guaranteed their undisturbed use and occupation. Those are not my words. That's the United States government's signature on a legal document, okay? But 6 years later, General George Armstrong Custer, he led an expedition into those same hills, searching for gold, and he found it, okay? And the moment that they found it, that treaty meant nothing at all. By 1877, Congress passed a law seizing the Black Hills. No negotiation, no consent. They just took it. The Lakota fought in court for over 100 years, and in 1980, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the seizure of the Black Hills was illegal, an unconstitutional taking of land. The government was ordered to pay $102 million in compensation. Now here's where the story becomes something that'll make you sit up and pay attention. The Lakota refused the money. Yes, they did. They said, "We don't want your check." Not at all. What we want is we want our land back. That money has been sitting in a federal trust account collecting interest for over 40 years. It's now worth approximately $2 billion, give or take. And the Lakota still will not touch it, because accepting that money would finally legalize the sale, and it would extinguish their claim to the Black Hills forever. And they refuse to let the United States buy its way out of a theft. There are some people living in the poorest counties in America. They are. Unemployment above 80% on Pine Ridge Reservation. And they are choosing dignity over dollars. Baby, if that's not resistance, somebody tell me what resistance looks like, okay? The Black Hills are not for sale. They never were. Amen? Amen.
The opportunity right now, and that's it, to leave. If you don't leave out here in an orderly fashion, you are coming with us. Do you understand that? You're leaving in that direction, and that's it. You are not pressed. Hey, all right. You have the opportunity.
I need you to listen to me. I need you to understand what's happening there. I don't care what your political party is. I need everybody to listen to me. What's happening there is the New Jersey State Police are telling protesters, you're coming with us if you don't go home. Basically what they did was implemented a curfew within half a mile of the Delaney detention facility. And those protesters believed they were outside the half a mile. That's important to point out. But it's more important to point out that the curfew itself is uncalled for. Listen to me. Follow the chain of events. ICE is illegally detaining people and keeping them in abhorrent conditions. So those people go on a hunger strike demanding that they be released from their illegal detainment. They had 4 demands: meet the governor, release the young, elderly, and sick, review their cases, and end the coercion. They're trying to coerce them into signing a voluntary deportation order, which this entire situation happens at detention facilities across the country. This is an ongoing thing in our country. So these hostages decide to stage a hunger strike. Protesters show up because they believe that what's happening to these human beings is inhumane. If you believe it's okay to treat people inhumanely just because they're not a citizen of your country, then that's a moral and ethical issue. So protesters show up because morally and ethically, they understand why people are giving up their most basic need of eating. It must be bad if you're willing to give up the sustenance of life in protest. So protesters show up with empathy towards those human beings, saying, hey, this is not how we should treat human beings. Stop that. And the government, which in this case, the federal government, ICE agents, shoot them and pepper mace them and spray them and beat them with batons, and it becomes very violent. So the state government sends in the police and says, hey, federal government, we got this. And the police turn around and they pepper spray them and mace them and run them over with horses and beat them with batons and shoot them with pepper balls. And they now give them a curfew. The governor gives them a curfew. Curfew for what? Curfew for standing up for the human rights of other people. If you think that's okay, if you think that that chain of events is perfectly okay, then you don't believe that we should have a free, moral, ethical society
with democracy. But if you don't think that's okay, then you need to stand the fuck up, because the time for waiting for somebody else to save us is over.
You know that non-citizens, aka foreigners, now have the right to arrest and prosecute American citizens on American soil. I'm talking about Washington Senate Bill 5068, which was officially signed into law. It's no longer a bill. It's passed the House. It's passed the Senate. It's signed into law by the governor in the state of Washington. This new law is going to allow foreigners, as long as they're federally authorized to work in America, but they're foreigners, it's going to allow them to serve as corrections officers, deputy prosecutors, and staff inside the prosecutor's offices, firefighters, and peace officers. I have a major issue with foreigners being given legal power over American citizens on American soil. Imagine this. You are minding your own business. You are detained by a foreigner. You are arrested by a foreigner. You are now in front of a judge, and the prosecutor who's accusing you of all these things is a foreigner, using your tax dollars on their salary for all of this, mind you. And then you are convicted, you go to prison, and you have a foreigner who has power over you as an American citizen. This is absolutely nuts. I have a major issue with this. I don't even know how this is constitutional. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this. I'm mumbling. Maybe enough people don't know. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard about this law? Did you know this existed? What do you guys think about this?
Mira cómo están llevando a la gente, por favor. Necesitamos ayuda. A mi hermana la pusieron ahorcando. Me estaban ahorcando. Los golpean como delincuentes. Por favor, ayúdenos. Espérate, no me van a hacer nada. Vámonos. No me van a hacer nada. Ahí está mi papá. Ya se lo llevaron.
So it tells you in the scriptures that in that day declares Adonai Almighty, I will break the yoke of their necks, and I will tear off their bonds, because they made us bondservants in the system. No longer will foreigners enslave them. So who came into our lands and took our lands and made us slaves? Foreigners, right? So we're daddy's children. The foreigners were Esau, and they put us in the Vatican's data system. You see, 1666. And the new cryptocurrency is 060606. And it tells you that they will fall by the edge of the sword and will be led captives into all nations, and Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled, and the time is now. Another thing, get out of religion, because they were the ones that gave us religions, and the original creators of this Christendom and its Abrahamic religions were black Moors. That's why Jesus started off black, then went white, and now he is black again. Surprise, surprise. Get out of religion, guys.
Rockefeller were Rothschilds, Rothschilds were Orsini, Orsini were a family which have their bloodlines in Babylon and Egypt. They tell you that. You read their biographies, they'll tell you that. We go back to Nimrod, they tell you that. The Rothschilds say that. We go back to Nimrod. How? Through the Orsinis. So Rockefeller, Rothschild, Orsini, and then you go back to the Persian and Egyptian dynasties. The Jesuits represent, they are the military arm of the Vatican, which is Catholic, and Catholic means universal, hence they're trying to claim that they are the universal Christendom base. The Pentagon is owned by the Farnese family, though.
Oh my God, somebody owns the Pentagon. They're all ran by the Jesuits.
Absolutely.
And then all the crime families are all Catholic-based. They're ran by the Jesuits, so they're playing both sides of this ball.
Absolutely they do. They're masters at it. They have to. Otherwise, they get caught out. They have to run both sides. They're co-opting everything. See,
The kingdom is the center of all satanic pedophilia evil. And the people in the United States that they and the Zionists and others have bribed and blackmailed are part of a United Kingdom Zionist deep state, Rothschild, City of London, Synagogue of Satan, Vatican thing. But the United Kingdom, the royal family, the City of London, the Rothschilds, the satanic pedophile networks that have been trafficking in children throughout the Commonwealth, including particularly Aborigine or indigenous children, this is all stuff that needs to be crushed. Now, merchants have always owned governments. And what we've seen in modern history is governments have been manipulated to have two-party tyrannies that disenfranchise 70% of the people. They use bread and circuses to keep 70% out of it. 30% seems to be a manageable number for manipulating whatever outcome you want. Now, bear in mind, the Queen of England is actually German. And the Windsor family used to have a German name, okay?